welcome to another video here at Sep's Garage. If you didn't watch the episode from last week, there'll be a link somewhere above my head in the proper placement this time. But we got Jay's car running, sort of. You'll see the intake is disconnected on the car. It starts and it runs in limp mode because there is a camshaft position sensor code. The camshaft position sensor is good on the car, but the pickup for it, which I have over here, isn't installed because I'm a dummy and I forgot to check it when I had previously had this engine apart. So that will be the first thing we gotta knock out. It is Tuesday. I had the weekend to be in pain because I threw my back out because I'm an old man. So I'm feeling a little bit better and I can knock out the rest of the car. But we've got alignment on Friday. We've got a track day on Monday, which we have to leave for on Sunday. So it's getting down to the wire and we really have to get this thing knocked out. So let's get at it. To be better able to explain what needs to happen on the car, I've got the spare engine, which is actually the original engine that came out of the car, up on the engine stand already disassembled. This is the camshaft and the trigger wheel for the camshaft position sensor, which is right back here. You can kind of see it poking through the little black thing right there. So there is a trigger wheel, looks like this guy, that this creates a Hall effect signal as it spins and it gets picked up by the sensor, and then the car knows where the camshaft is. Well, we don't have this installed on the car, so the car doesn't know where the camshaft is, and it doesn't really make the engine very happy. So in order to get to that, I don't have to take the camshaft out, which is great news, but I do have to disassemble quite a bit. This is the cap with the seal that lives right in there, and to get to that is kind of a pain because the wire harness has to come out, which generally lives right here, like that. It's bolted in place, but also held in by a multitude of clips and wiring harness that runs down the front of the engine and back of the engine, so that's going to take me some time. So I'm going to get to it and get back to you when it's all torn apart. As you can see, we have got the engine all torn apart now. Gotta love working backwards to go forward, but I had to take off the plenum so I could loosen up all of the wiring that's underneath there. And then got some more of this wiring loosened up here. I did have to undo that fuel line. So I'm gonna have to be careful, clean up all the fuel that's kind of spilling over the top of the transmission area here. But the harness is now out of the way and being held up by the fuel line so that I can get to the little bolt right here. There is one right there. And then I don't know if you'll be able to see the other one. It is that guy right there. And then this whole cap just slides out that way. And then we can get the little trigger wheel in and put it all back together and hopefully make this thing run properly. You can see that the trigger wheel is now installed. So now I get to put the whole car back together, make sure everything is where it's supposed to be, get it running, and then hopefully we can run it past 3,000. I did also get the ABS sensors, so I'm going to throw those on before a test drive. Just so that there's no lights on the dash and the car is in optimal shape to go ahead and take it for a little cruise. And if there's anything that pops up during that, then we can address it at that point. But I'm going to get this back together and see you for the second test start. We have an engine that is back together. But before the battery goes back in place, I'm going to go ahead and install the ABS sensors so that all of the computers in the car are happy by the time that we try cranking this over again, and hopefully it starts up without issue and isn't in limp mode. We got the whole car back together and also threw some coolant in. I'm really hoping this will work so I don't have to tear stuff back apart. So let's see if it'll run and go past 3,000 RPM this time. success. But I gotta be real with you. This is just me doing YouTube Lamb stuff. What I didn't show you was the 2-3 hours of diagnostics in the span of the last whatever half day where I couldn't get the damn car started. No matter what, it would just crank and crank and crank and not start. I tore half the engine back apart trying to diagnose what the heck was going on. I was getting fuel, I wasn't getting any ignition. I thought maybe it had something to do with the crank sensor, so I played around with that, swapped it out for the one from the old engine, did all this stuff, and finally ended up being something really dumb, which it usually is. There is a little gray 1-pin plug behind the battery near the ABS sensor, and turns out that that is the main ignition coil power coming off a relay in the underdash fuse box, and the coil packs weren't getting any power, so the car wouldn't start. Got that pin back in place, and it started right back up. So, yeah. And, you know, you want to watch all these videos where people are just like, oh, I'm making all this stuff happen, and it looks easy. Sometimes they don't tell you the stuff they go through, you know, and it's not always like that. But, yeah, gonna continue, get coolant bled, get the race seat on, and then we'll take this for a test drive. It's a new day, and I'm going to do the last little finishing touches on the Fit before we take it for a test drive. I've got to go to Toge Factory, which is roughly a 45-minute drive, to go get some brake fluid so we can finish up the last little tidbits on this thing to get it track ready. Before that happens, I'm going to go ahead and tape the crap out of that pin that was giving me issues and wouldn't let the car start, just so that it doesn't come back out. I don't want to crimp it together, because to get the engine harness out in case the engine ever has to come back out or any kind of electrical work needs to happen with that, that pin does need to be able to be disconnected. Also going to torque the wheels, check tire pressures, and set them to something street friendly. And I might even check the alignment just real quick. There wasn't any right height changes, but there was a camber change, and generally that will make the tires toe in. But yeah, just a couple little things. Take it for a test drive, and hopefully everything goes smoothly. If you ever come across a GD that won't run, specifically because you don't have any spark, this would probably be the first thing to check. That little gray 1-pin plug lives right here by the driver's side strut tower on the left-hand drive cars. And this pin will just pull out of the connector, and then you've got a wire right here, if you can see that, that is just hanging out and not giving power to anything. And if that touches, turn that off, if that touches the body and grounds out, it can really screw up a lot of stuff. Luckily, that didn't happen here. It just pulled out of the connector, but that feeds the ignition coils with power so that they can fire. So it'll keep your car from running. I'm gonna go ahead and just tape it. I don't want to, again, I don't want to just get rid of that connector altogether. I still want it to be serviceable. So I'm just gonna tape it together so that it doesn't pull out through vibration and whatnot on the track, and then put all of this back together, and then we'll go see how the car feels. All right, we are test driving Jay's Fit. I decided to take it on a shorter test drive first, just because my phone decided to break itself and stop working. Thank you, Pixel. So, don't have a phone. If you guys are trying to reach me or place orders or send me messages about your order or emails or whatever, might be a little bit. Before I get back to you, I did order a new phone, and I should be seeing it in the next 2-3 days. But I'm gonna try to keep an eye on my laptop. Until then, the car feels great. I do have to adjust the clutch. We also still have an ABS light and check engine light that has popped up, so we're gonna go back and check on those. I also think the alignment's off a little bit more than I'm comfortable with, so we'll have to probably wait till Friday to get the alignment done. But the car feels great. It feels super solid. The engine is very lively, which I'm quite enjoying. The clutch is every bit as stiff as I remember. It's awesome. The diff feels really good. It's not clunky. The car feels, I think, much peppier, happier. than it did with the old tired engine and transmission in it. You might hear the tiniest bit of NVH through these motor mounts, and also these tires, even though they're brand new, they are super sticky. Like usually you have to kind of heat cycle them in a little bit for them to grip up and get sticky, but I'm hearing every little rock and pebble hit everywhere inside this car. Mind you, these things are kind of tin cans and don't have a whole lot of you know, noise reduction or dampening. But you can hear how happy this thing is to rev. It's definitely zippier than it was before. I don't think it's going to be making any more power per se, but it should be making that power just a little bit quicker, going through the revs in a happier manner with the lightened clutch and flywheel setup. So yeah, let's get back and see what these lights are about. All right, reading the codes on this thing. We just got back. We have a knock sensor one circuit back one. Okay, I don't know why it's registering as more than one knock sensor. We have a knock sensor code. It's P0325, so I'll probably just have to double check that connector. But other than that, everything's looking good. We have, I think, yeah, we have 6 out of 8 readiness monitors that have set, so we still have 2 that haven't set that could be throwing codes, but I have to double check that knock sensor. So let's go knock the dust off of one of the other cars and get the Toga factory. We are in the OG, the Johnny Tran Fit. I haven't driven this thing in some time. The battery was actually pretty low. The car almost didn't want to start without a jump. But just put insurance back on it. Since it was in storage, I had it off for a bit and figured, why not shake some dust off this thing and get it back out. It's disgustingly dirty, so I'm gonna have to wash it at some point. But yeah, let's stretch our legs a little bit and go pick up some stuff. We are turning onto the street that TF Works is off of. Luckily, I've got a pretty good internal compass and I know how to get here without directions because my phone died and I don't have any way to navigate. It might not be the quickest, but I do know the route. So let's pull up and see what kind of cool stuff they got going on. Picked up 2 quarts of brake fluid, or pints actually, yeah, it's 500 mils. So now we can get back to the shop and start wrapping up all the little small things that need to get done on the car. It's currently Wednesday. We've got the rest of today and tomorrow, then the car goes to alignment. I don't know when I get it back. I drop it off in the morning, pick it up whenever they're done, and then after that, test drive it, make sure everything's okay. Saturday is probably going to be busy day making the video and not much time to work on the car, so hopefully there's nothing to get done before it gets picked up on Sunday and tracked on Monday. So let's get back and get back into it. All right, we made it back to headquarters. I forgot how taxing this car is to drive with the stiff clutch and the suspension that's on it and the very touchy brakes. It's definitely a very different experience than that guy. But there are some things I want to change to make it a little bit more pleasant to drive.
believe it or not, I've been spoiled by, yeah, we'll call it the luxurious driving experience of the stock fit. The stock suspension is actually really comfortable now that it's mostly new on that car, and I want to lower it, but I really don't want to make it any harsher, so I might just be cutting my springs. Don't tell anyone I said that. But yeah, I'm definitely going to be doing some tweaking on this thing. It's a lot of fun, but it's also very taxing to drive. The power delivery is a little weird, but I'm hoping to fix that with the turbo setup. It feels very gutless down low, like below 3,500, 4,000 RPM, almost more so than a stock car, and I think that has a lot to do with the cam. But once it gets up in the RPM, this thing has tons of power delivery. It's a lot easier to go faster and get out of its own way in traffic, also on track. But enough blabbing about this thing. Let's get Jay's car done so then we can pull that guy in at a later date and give it some love, because it's definitely been needing it. I am back in F Me Up clothes so that I can get dirty and finish this car. So I have made a little list here of all the things that I personally need to finish. That does not include the wheel alignment, because I'm not doing that. I'm sending that out. But the first thing I wanted to tackle was the check engine light on. It's on for the knock sensor, which I thought was weird because when the car was first running, it wasn't on. But guess what I discovered? Yep. The knock sensor was not hooked up. The wire wasn't in all the way. The new engine, the knock sensor is like clocked differently on the block, and I think that it just like had a little tension. So I now get to try to put my grubby fingers up in the not so much space underneath the intake manifold. You can kind of see it on this engine. It's like right underneath this runner between the coolant pipe and there. You know, tiny car stuff. But I'm going to do my best to try to get it in there without having to take anything apart, because I really don't want to have to do anything with the cooling system now that it's all bled. So let me get that done and then see if we can figure out I think ABS light is what I'm going to tackle next. So see you in a little bit. So I was able to get the sensor back on, even though the cable was clocked a little bit differently. I did have to remove the oil dipstick tube, which is what I'm working on reinstalling right now. And yeah, sometimes you gotta get a little comfortable while you're working. So sorry, Jay, sitting on your bumper. This thing's all messed up anyway. But that should take care of the check engine light, which is great news. So I'm gonna pull out my fancy scanner and see if I can figure out why the ABS computer isn't happy and what's going on with it. After using my handy dandy fancy scanner, this thing is super powerful and will get into all sorts of stuff. It's bidirectional, so it'll actually make the car do stuff when you want it to. Great tool, wildly expensive, but awesome tool. I was actually able to figure out that the ABS stuff was really simple and it just needed to be cleared, because they had, you know, triggered some stuff when the sensors weren't in and there wasn't power getting to where power needed to be, and it just needed a master reset. So off the list, we can do CEL and ABS, which is the ones I was the most worried about. I thought they were going to be the most time consuming, and it actually didn't take very long. So while we're on the streak, I'm going to go ahead and handle the horn, because it's important to have a working horn if you have a street car. So that should be just a ground wire. The horn button isn't wired, so it's a pretty simple solution. Get that knocked out, and then put the car back on the lift, do some brake stuff, and continue going. Got the horn all fixed up. Check out the Seb's cruise control bracket, since this is a street car and it was being driven to track events. Now Jay picked up a trailer, but you know, having cruise is a nice feature to have on a street car. But this was pretty easy. Just had to make sure that the horn button is being grounded. There's a couple ways of doing that. I like to just run a wire straight to it and loop it around the wiring or the grounding ring, or add a connector if it has the little tab for it. So that is done, and now we can get in brakes. We've got the car up in the air, and I secured the rear bumper so it doesn't come off. These cars are very prone to quarter panel rust, and the bumpers hanging off is a pretty common occurrence. So it's usually a case-by-case basis as far as how they get fixed. I definitely want to come up with an all-inclusive bolt-in solution for these, but I just haven't gotten around to it yet. I do have some ideas on what may work, but it'll be a future thing for me to figure out after I get done with all the current projects I have. But it is something that I'm mindful of and something I want to fix. Generally, the bracket that's back here is held in, and the clip that holds it here gets rutted out, and then it bounces all over the place. So yeah, definitely something that I want to take care of at some point. But right now we're gonna get into brakes. These are racing brake pads. These things are pretty gnarly. They squeal like crazy until they get up to temporary operating temperature. Once they do reach operating temperature, they work amazing. Not something I recommend people running on the street. They chew through rotors. They have a lot of dust, so they will cake. Some pretty corrosive dust all over your wheels, and all around just not great for street setup. But for a track, especially something as demanding as Road America, those are a necessity. So let's throw those on and then do some fluid. I am getting ready to bleed the brakes here, and I've got the Motive power bleeder hooked up to the top of the master cylinder. This seals the system up and puts pressure through it with the manual pump. Then when you are opening each bleed screw, which I use one of these little containers, which has a bleed valve in it, doesn't allow any air to go back through it. You can do all of this by yourself instead of needing a second person, and it takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. These things aren't very expensive either. They've been a great addition to the tool stable. Once everything's hooked up, I like to pressurize it without fluid first, just to make sure that it holds pressure. And then once I know that it holds pressure for a couple of minutes and there's no leaks, then I can fill it with the brake fluid. This stuff is expensive. It's like 20 bucks for each tiny container. So that way I don't waste any. If there's a leak, I can fix it before putting all the fresh fluid in, then pushing that through the system and bleeding it out. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that done, and then we'll put the wheels back on, get the car back on the ground, take it for another test drive. Next up on the list will be bumper mounting, so that we don't have that going on at speed. There are some holes underneath here, which are for plastic clips. I'm going to be using some riv nuts to make them into threaded holes, and then use some aluminum flat stock, cut up and bend some brackets that will go like this, and then bolt into one of the existing holes. That way to remove the bumper, it'll just be 2 bolts and it'll be nicely secured. So I'm gonna go ahead and knock that out, and I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. This is what I've been working on. It's just a really simple metal bracket. It's a piece of aluminum with a couple of bends. This bolts into the bolt that sandwiches the splitter to the bumper, and then somewhere around back here will be a separate hole that will mount to the chassis. And I currently have the driver's side done. I still have to do the passenger, which is this one. And look at how this is with just one on here. Compared to how it was before, this side still has all this movement. This side, way more solid. So I'm gonna knock this second one out, and then we'll see how everything looks after. Not too bad for a couple of minutes. This is much more solid than it was before. The headlight gap could be tweaked to be a little bit better, but this is a bumper that's been through some stuff. Aftermarket headlights, not OEM mounting positions. There's a lot going on here. So I'm really not too fussed about it. But yeah, that should be solid. That should pass tech. That shouldn't waddle around as the car is barely doing 100 miles per hour on the back straight at Road America while everyone else is passing by and Jay's just doing this the whole time. But yeah, we can cross that off the list and get to the next item. We are out test driving the car. I made the necessary adjustments for the brake pedal, or sorry, the clutch pedal. Feels much better. The alignment's still a little off. The car's a little twitchy. That will get fixed later in the week when the alignment appointment is. I'm not going to mess with it since it's going to get redone very soon anyway. The brakes are good. I have not gotten them up to temperature yet, but I did get all the new fluid in there with the racing fluid. And peppy. Like, this thing feels, I think, even better than my car. This low mileage engine, some good stuff. It's here. It's way too early, but it's finally Friday. It's alignment day. And we have these 2 days, and then the car gets picked up, and then we're off to the track. So let's go drop this thing off at alignment. Hope everything goes smoothly. And then I'm actually really hyped to drive it on the way back to really feel what this thing is going to feel like. So let's get to it. Fit is done. Picking it up from alignment. They were able to get negative 3.2 degrees of front camber, which is on the money. 3.5 is the track spec for first gens. I don't have any first-hand experience with second gens, but I imagine it'll be pretty close to that. So now that this thing is going to be a lot less dicey on the road, let's drive in dicey conditions because it's raining and terrible out with some brand new track tires. Wish me luck. Camera's kind of running low on memory and battery, so I don't know that I'll be filming too much of that, but I will definitely give you my thoughts once we get back to the shop. So let's get back to the shop. We are back in the shop. It is the next day. Last night I picked the car up from alignment pretty late, and then I stopped by James, the owner of the white Corvette that was here, to talk about some stuff and help him out with something. And then the owner of the Integra stopped by and picked up some stuff so we can get the ball rolling on that, continue getting some progress done. And then this morning I popped the seat in to the fit. So this thing's officially done. It's currently Saturday. Tomorrow, Sunday, the car gets picked up, which is when the video will be live. And then Monday, we're doing the track day. So we're really down to the wire here. Car feels amazing. So let's go ahead and wrap this video up. All right, let me catch you up. I know I didn't really do much after picking the car up for alignment, just because the camera wasn't really cooperating, but also the weather was pretty dicey. And I just got sidetracked with a bunch of stuff, but the car feels great after the alignment. I had a bunch of toe in just because of the camber adjustment that was done. And then afterwards, the car feels so good. The amount of grip when you add a good bit of front camber to these cars is amazing. With this really good set of coilovers on it, grippy tires, and the good brakes, this thing's going to be an absolute weapon on track. I'm actually super excited for Jay to get the car back and drive it. I told him that the first time he's going to drive it is going to be at the track. I'm going to be the one putting it on the trailer so that it's just complete, raw, first time. And just, I want to get that on camera maybe for the next episode. But, yeah, I've been talking to him about the car, the whole time this has been happening. And as I keep building these cars, I keep figuring out the recipe of how to make them work in the best way possible as a dual duty type of vehicle. So they're still an amazing track car and fun toy to have, but while still being streetable. And short of the very stiff clutch, this car, I think, is the epitome of what a fit should be. And I told him that I think that this thing feels even better than my car currently, which is a big claim.
So yeah, really excited to see how this thing performs. I'm hoping that the track day goes smoothly. We are supposed to get some rain in the morning, but I'm hoping that Peter's off during the day, and we've got a nice clear track for him to work up to pace. And the car comes home in one piece, and he just enjoys the crap out of this thing, because I know that just a short little time I've spent behind the wheel, this car is just amazingly fun. Which is the whole point of these cars. You know, they're not very fast, but they are such a freaking joy. So that'll do it for this one. I will be making kind of a track, maybe some other stuff video for the next one, so be on the lookout for that. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.